Hello, you're watching Daybreak on A News. I'm Dilek Tuna. Let's see the headlines. 2 oil tankers exploded near the Strait of Hormuz as US attacks on Iran intensified. A Russian airstrike kills 2 and injures dozens in Zaporizhzhia as Ukraine launches retaliation. And Spain lifts the World Cup trophy for the second time after defeating Argentina 1-0 in extra time. Two oil tankers have exploded south of the Strait of Hormuz amid a 9th consecutive night of US airstrikes against Iran. The escalating conflict now spans multiple regional fronts, with Tehran claiming a ballistic missile strike on US aircraft in Jordan, utilizing local intelligence, signaling the total collapse of a month-old ceasefire agreement.
US Central Command confirmed a new wave of strikes began Sunday night, aiming to further degrade Iranian capabilities. Under an active naval blockade, American forces have already redirected 6 commercial vessels and disabled another to enforce full compliance around the Strait of Hormuz.
We control the strait. They don't control anything. So we'll see what happens. But we hit them very hard again tonight. And we did that in honor of the probably 3. It's probably 3 as opposed to 2. Great patriots.
The escalation hit critical infrastructure as US projectiles struck Iran's Darkovan nuclear plant construction site, though the International Atomic Energy Agency quickly ruled out radiological hazards. While official US casualties stand at 17 dead, including at a recent northern Iraq fatality, and more than 420 wounded since the war began, Iran's Revolutionary Guards claim a prior strike in Jordan's Azraq has killed dozens. Under Operation Nazar II, Tehran alleges local intelligence helped target US aircraft at Aqaba airport. Concurrently, Iran confirmed activating Code 110, an emergency protocol for systemic retaliation.
The world has realized that Iran is strong. They say, we just realized that your atomic bomb is the Strait of Hormuz. We had been looking for something else until now. This might actually have been our greatest victory.
Hours after those remarks, the IRGC claimed 2 oil tankers exploded in an unsafe lane, blaming US military coercion. Britain's Maritime Trade Operations Agency confirmed a vessel was on fire near Oman late Sunday, triggering oil prices to rise as Brent crude prices surged past $95 a barrel, sparking widespread fears of a global energy crisis.
Residents of Tehran are calling for a stronger response as US strikes on Iran continue. The latest attacks have damaged transport and energy infrastructure in southern Iran, while Tehran has continued retaliatory strikes across the region.
As US strikes continued for several days, Tehran residents condemned attacks on Iran's infrastructure and called for a response.
An attack on infrastructure is the most brutal form of assault. It puts the population of an entire country at risk and attempts to pressure them. In my view, this is the most hostile objective, and it must be resisted as strongly as possible. I feel that this is more about bullying and coercion, which is why I say we must oppose it as much as possible. In any case, war is never a good thing. All Iranian people want peace, and we wish for peace to prevail everywhere, not just for us.
Other residents took a harder line and called for attacks on US positions across the region.
Iran must launch a wide-ranging and serious attack on American targets in the region, forcing the United States to retreat. Otherwise, certainly, the US will gradually and progressively advance, even toward Iran's central regions. And in time, the confrontation with US attacks will become more severe and heavier.
The comments showed differing views, ranging from calls for a wider military response to demands for resistance without a prolonged war.
As we've just covered in our stories there, the conflict between the United States and Iran has entered another dangerous phase. The US has launched a fresh wave of strikes after 2 American service members were killed in an Iranian attack in Jordan, with President Donald Trump dedicating the operation to the fallen personnel. Joining me now to further discuss the latest exchange is Kaswar Klasra, Editor-in-Chief at the Islamabad Telegraph from Islamabad, Pakistan. Kaswar, welcome to the program this morning.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Now, President Trump described the latest strikes as a response to the deaths of 2 American service members in Jordan, framing them as both a military operation and a message of resolve. What's your assessment of this political and strategic messaging?
Well, thank you for having me on the show once again. And let me tell you that the statement given by the United States President Trump is really dangerous. And he means it. And according to my information, we have been covering this war since the time it began. I think this time Trump looked very serious, and according to my information, 60 air tankers have arrived there in Israel. More than 100 is the target, and F-32, F-35, and other dangerous, all kinds of the weapons have been piled up there in Israel, and it all shows that the Trump is really dangerous. He's looking dangerous. It means it, the Iranian missiles that has struck in Jordan, that is going to prove as a turning point in U.S.-Iran wars. And God forbid, I think this escalation will decide the U.S.-Iran wars as well. And as I told you, God forbid, this time the Trump and Americans are looking very dangerous, and they will definitely not spare the killings of their soldiers by the Iranian missile attack as well. And also, what is more important is that this time the GCC countries and all the US allies in the Middle Eastern countries, they are all on the same page. Before that, if I can take you 2 or 3 weeks back, there was some delaying tactics by the US allies in the Middle East as well. And now, what Iran has done, it has bombarded Saudi Arabia. It has activated Houthis in Yemen. It has attacked, Qatar, Kuwait, and every country. And what was left behind, that was covered by the Iranian attack at Jordan. And I think all of these ingredients leads to a horrible attack on Iran. And I think the US is looking very dangerous. Trump is looking very dangerous. They will not spare. And yesterday, if you take in account the devastation and catastrophic act on the 9th consecutive airstrike by the US, that has done a great job there in Iran as well. And a country, Iran, the war has actually taken it to the capital as well. And last night, the attack on the headquarters of Iranian military headquarters was really horrible. I think the US-Iran escalation is coming to a tipping point, and this is very dangerous for the region as well.
Okay, now the United States maintains, as you pointed out as well, these strikes are aimed at deterring further attacks on its personnel, while Iran portrays them as further evidence of American aggression. Now, the 2 competing narratives there. How does this shape international perceptions of the conflict?
Well, international response to the US and Iranian, escalation have been condemnable. NATO, okay, the NATO countries, the European have taken side on this, but they did not play their roles to stop American attack on Iran. They did not, jump into the conversation, and they even did not bother to convince Iran to not focus on Hormuz, to keep at least the Iranian. What the European countries could have done is that first thing they should have convinced Trump not to strike on Iran. First thing, if they could not do it, then the other option that was very well valid was to stop the Iranian authorities to influence the traffic in Hormuz. They did not. And also same is the condition with Russia. Russia has its own problem. China has not been a party, but it did not play a role as a powerful country. I think the answer to your question is only one-liner. The world community has been silent spectator, just a sub 3 or 4 countries. They include in Pakistan, Turkey, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia. These are the countries that had done a remarkable job. At least they had forced the two sides to pause for a brief period of time as well. And also must appreciate Pakistan's chief of defense forces, and also who was backed by Saudi Arabia, Turkish and other countries, brotherly countries as well. And also Azerbaijan has been in the party. It has been influenced and trying to influence the Iranian, and also it put its weight behind the Pakistani when it comes to mediation. And that is why the first round of talks were possible in Islamabad and then in Switzerland as well. But so far, the world's community's call, including the United Nations, has been condemnable. They have been a silent spectator in US-Iran conflict, and they still are. They have not woken up. So I believe that this time the war is going to be a very dangerous, not only for the region, not only for the Middle East as well, but this time I think if the reports are true, God forbid, the way Trump has has given green signal for a mother of all kinds of attack. This was the phrase that was used by one of the most honorable, analyst on the US and Iran war as well. And in the morning, he told me, I interviewed him, he told me that Iran is going to unleash mother of all attacks on Iran, and it will be done within 2-3 days as well. And also the previous preparation, as I told you earlier, that 60 air fueling craft has arrived in Israel, and more than 100 fighter jets and all kinds of weapons have been arrived in Israel as well. And this time, Israel will be a party. Israel may join the war against Iran. It may add fully to the United States as well. And if this all happen, it means the world will have to, face another catastrophe. And 3%, the crude oil prices have jumped by 3% last night. And if the plans goes on, God forbid, I believe that there will be an unprecedented increase in the crude oil prices as well. So I think the world community has to woken up. But if it did not, it will have to face the consequences because Trump is not stoppable at the moment.
Okay, Kaswa, in the interest of time, we'll have to end there. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your contribution this morning.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Now to a short break, and when we return, we'll discuss the rest of the global story. Stay with us.
Inside Politics delves deeply into the heart of global issues shaping our world today. Join me for your go-to source of political analysis from across the region and beyond.
More than 20,000 partisan fighters have been hidden. We found only 3,000.
My grandmother had 3 brothers. In the graveyard, the body of just one of them.
Their struggle was very unequal and against a state that had defeated such a force as Nazi Germany.
A lot of resistant fighters in the beginning of Soviet occupation actually would end up here, if not killed somewhere in the woods.
was arrested at her home. Her 7-year-old daughter ran to her and screamed, "Mom, please take me with you." This report having the names of the individuals who were placed in the list of deportations.
I was born in Kengia, in a labor camp. My mother was a partisan liaison.
The first years were extremely difficult, of course. Poverty, hunger. The temperature sometimes dropped to -50 degrees.
The train stations like the one behind me once said goodbyes to thousands of people carried from across the Baltic states towards Siberia.
Welcome back. You're watching Daybreak. Let's continue with the global stories for the hour. A deadly Russian airstrike has killed 2 and injured dozens in Zaporizhzhia, coinciding with one of Moscow's largest ballistic missile barrages on the Ukrainian capital. In a swift retaliation, Kyiv's forces have struck deep inside Russian territory, targeting oil depots and Moscow's shadow fleet in the Black Sea.
Ukrainian officials report at least 2 dead and 42 injured, including 8 children, following Russian airstrikes on the southeastern city of Zaporizhzhia. The attack aligns with a massive early Monday morning assault that saw Moscow launch more than 40 missiles, primarily targeting Kyiv. Concurrently, Russia's defense ministry claims its forces captured the settlement of Volnoye in the Dnepropetrovsk region, asserting strikes on 149 Ukrainian military and infrastructure targets.
Today was one of the largest attacks carried out with ballistic missiles. Kyiv and the surrounding region were the Russians' primary target. Russia is placing its bets on ballistic missiles, and it is because of them that Putin still believes in his war.
In a coordinated retaliation, Ukraine's security service and navy released footage of naval drones striking 3 vessels linked to Russia's shadow fleet in the Black Sea. Deep inside Russian territory, Ukrainian long-range strikes hit a fuel facility and 3 oil depots in the Stavropol region, nearly 600 kilometers from the border.
Tehran have previously approved air defense deliveries. We continue implementing the plan of long-range sanctions against Russia for the war, the oil sector, supplies for the occupying forces, our Ukrainian mid-strikes and long-range strikes. These are our responses.
Following the intense exchange of strikes, President Zelensky issued an urgent appeal to Washington and European allies, demanding the immediate acceleration of previously approved air defense deliveries.
And over to the UK, Andy Burnham becomes Britain's 7th Prime Minister in a decade today. Succeeding Keir Starmer's fractured Labour government, Burnham inherits a stagnant economy and surging right-wing opposition. After accepting the King's mandate, the new Premier will immediately overhaul his cabinet, with global markets closely watching his pick for Chancellor to tackle the cost of living crisis. Staying in Europe, Hungary's Prime Minister Peter Magyar says he'll ask chess champion Judit Polgár to become the country's next president. The 49-year-old is expected to meet Magyar on Monday to discuss the nomination, with the Prime Minister saying she could help unite the country. Magyar's party holds a 2/3 majority in Parliament after its landslide election victory in April. Lawmakers will elect a new president who will remain in office until a new constitution takes effect, or for up to 5 years. Hungary's president has signed a constitutional amendment ending his term in office after it was approved by Prime Minister Peter Magyar's ruling party. The decision has prompted mixed reactions from Hungarians, with some welcoming the move and others raising concerns about its impact on the country's democratic institutions.
Hungarians reacted on Sunday after President Tamás Sulyok signed a constitutional amendment ending his term as head of state. The measure was passed by Prime Minister Peter Magyar's ruling TISA party after it secured a two-thirds parliamentary majority in April. Magyar says the reforms are aimed at removing officials appointed under former Prime Minister Viktor Orban's government. Sulyok said he was legally obliged to sign the amendment, but warned it had harmed Hungary's constitutional democracy and the rule of law. Some Hungarians said the president had failed to act independently during his time in office.
He never said anything when he would have really needed to. There were several cases in the past period when it would have been really good to hear a neutral and independent opinion, and that did not happen.
Tamás Sulyok was a character of no weight. He never said anything. He never took a position. He just signed everything in silence. He said what they told him to say. He really was a puppet.
Others questioned the way the amendment was passed and expressed concern over its implications.
To be honest, I don't really like it when laws are passed retroactively. I don't really like what's going on in Parliament now. I'm not saying that I don't like the change, but I think it has taken a bad direction, with forcing Tamás Sulyok to resign. I'm curious to see what will happen now, but I don't have good feelings about it.
Now a new one-party system will evolve. The TISA party will put their own puppet there, obviously. They will do now what they want. Even until now, the president did not have much right, unfortunately. But this way, it will be even worse.
The constitutional amendment ends Sulyok's presidency immediately, with Parliament Speaker Agnes Forsthofer set to become interim president from Monday, as Hungary's new government continues its effort to reshape institutions established during the Orban era.
Europe's latest heatwave is taking an increasing toll beyond public health. A new report warns that rising temperatures could cost Italy billions of euros each year, while the extreme conditions are also disrupting transport, energy production and economic activity across the continent.
Persistent high temperatures could cost Italy between 6 and 12 billion euros a year, according to a report released on Saturday by the Italian Confederation of Business, Tourism and Services. According to a report, if Italy experiences between 30 and 60 days of extreme heat each year, businesses are likely to face rising energy costs, lower labor productivity, and reduced turnover. The report also says prolonged heat could change consumer behavior and travel patterns, putting additional pressure on the retail and tourism sectors. Heat waves are becoming more frequent as Europe warms faster than any other region. Many scientists say human activity is increasing the likelihood of more frequent and intense extreme weather events. This year's heat waves began in June, with weeks of record-breaking temperatures affecting major economies, including Germany and France. Temperatures above 30 degrees Celsius place physical strain on workers, impair concentration, and reduce productivity. Oxford Economics estimates that severe heat events can cut quarterly labor productivity growth by 2 percentage points. The hot, dry conditions have also disrupted transport and energy production. Low river levels have restricted barge traffic on waterways such as the Rhine River, raising shipping costs and slowing deliveries of coal, fuel, and agricultural goods. Higher river temperatures have also forced reductions in nuclear power generation. Earlier this week, France cut nuclear output by 6.4 gigawatts, about 14% of the country's daily electricity demand, as warmer rivers limited reactor cooling.
A wildfire has swept through towns on France's Mediterranean coast near the Côte d'Azur, threatening homes and forcing the evacuation of several villages. Local authorities say strong winds and dry conditions helped the flames spread quickly, burning around 180 hectares by Sunday evening. Train services between Toulon and Les Arcs were suspended as the blaze spread. The fire comes after weeks of extreme heat across Western Europe, with the World Meteorological Organization warning that high temperatures, low humidity and dry vegetation are increasing wildfire risks. In Les Arcs, foresters say temperatures are set to reach 38 degrees Celsius. And Spain is battling several wildfires as extreme heat and dry air from North Africa raise the risk of further outbreaks. The wildfires have burned around 16,000 hectares and forced evacuations from several municipalities. Around 300 military emergency personnel have joined firefighting operations, supported by helicopters making continuous water drops. Spain's weather agency warns temperatures could reach 44 degrees Celsius in parts of Andalusia and La Mancha next week. Wildfires are also burning near Madrid and in Guadalajara province. Canadian wildfires are affecting millions across the border in the United States. As smoke continues to spread, President Trump said the cost of what he called the pollution should be added to tariffs already imposed on Canada. Here's more.
Firefighting helicopters flew over towering smoke plumes in southwestern Canada as crews battled fast-moving wildfires near Pemberton, British Columbia. Hot and dry weather continues to fuel fires across Western Canada. Ontario Premier Doug Ford says the province is battling 191 active fires. He also says the governors of Minnesota and Massachusetts have offered assistance.
We're also strengthening our fleet of firefighting aircraft by investing $650 million, which is the largest purchase in Ontario and Canadian history, to purchase 5 new helicopters and 6 new water bombers. We will not put a price on the safety of our communities, and I mean it when I say that we will spare no expense. I'll repeat that, spare no expense.
Smoke from the fires has drifted deep into the United States, covering cities including Washington, D.C., in thick haze. Air quality alerts have been issued across more than a dozen states, with millions of people urged to limit outdoor activity because of unhealthy air.
It's just the heat and it's just gotten so bad. So I mean, climate change, it's not something I don't think anybody can deny at this point. I think we're really behind the 8 ball because people didn't believe it for so long, and now, everything that they said is coming to fruition.
I think it's kind of natural to have wildfires. It's been that way for millions of years, so I have zero concerns. And it's a part of nature's process.
Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump blamed Canada for the smoke affecting the United States and said he would speak with Prime Minister Mark Carney about Ottawa's wildfire response. Trump also said the cost of what he called the pollution should be added to tariffs already imposed on Canada.
And over to Latin America, at least 6 people have been killed and 21 injured after 2 earthquakes struck central Peru at the weekend. The tremors, measuring magnitudes 5.1 and 3.7, hit Chupacha province in the mountainous Junin region, around 300 kilometers east of Lima. According to the head of Peru's National Civil Defense Institute, about 48 homes were destroyed and 18 others damaged, affecting nearly 300 people. Emergency crews are clearing debris amid concerns that more victims may be trapped. Shanghai is hosting the 2026 World AI Conference, bringing together more than 1,000 companies and thousands of new technologies.
More than 1,100 companies are presenting their latest artificial intelligence products at the 2026 World AI Conference in Shanghai. The exhibition covers more than 100,000 square meters for the first time. Organisers say over 3,000 products and technologies are on display, including more than 300 making their global debut.
China is developing really fast, and we're a European company and we want to help also European companies grow, as well as Chinese companies. We're in the data field, so we basically do the data for the robots' intelligence.
The conference is also focused on international cooperation and the rules governing the development and use of artificial intelligence.
And AI can help us in that, but we need to be in the driver's seat. And in order to do that, we need AI ethics, because AI ethics, the principles are there to protect us, protect the human rights, to protect the human beings from, for example, from their data being kind of intercepted or being compromised, or the privacy not being respected, etc. Yeah, so it's very important.
The conference also unveiled an international action plan on AI ethics and a China-led initiative aimed at building trust and connectivity between AI agents.
Football's biggest prize has a new home. Spain beat Argentina 1-0 after extra time to win the 2026 FIFA World Cup. It was a final that delivered drama on and off the pitch as fans, world leaders and global stars gathered for the tournament's biggest night. Here's a look back.
Celebrations and fireworks lit up as Spain were crowned world champions again after a 1-0 extra-time victory against defending champions Argentina in the 2026 FIFA World Cup final in New Jersey. The win ends a 16-year wait after the last time the men's team picked up the trophy. Spanish supporters erupted after the final whistle, with scenes of joy from the stadium in New Jersey to the streets of Spain.
It took forever. I was just nervous. I didn't want to go to penalties. That was it. They deserved to win, pure domination. They were the better team, so I called it. So sorry Messi and Argentina, but Spain's a better team now.
However, for Argentina, the defending champions who lifted the trophy in Qatar in 2022, missed the chance to become the first team since Brazil in 1962 to retain the World Cup. Their hopes faded after Enzo Fernandez was sent off late in normal time, while 39-year-old Lionel Messi was left without another World Cup title in what is expected to be his final appearance at the tournament.
What can I say? We're sad because we weren't able to bring home the trophy. My deepest thanks to everyone, to all the fans and all the people who carried us today. Whatever little strength we had left, they gave us that strength and pushed us to keep fighting until the very end with the match still open, but it wasn't to be. They were deserved winners. That's the reality.
Meanwhile, more than 80,000 fans watched one of the biggest halftime shows in World Cup history, featuring performances by Madonna, Shakira, Burna Boy and other international stars. Security was also heightened as US President Donald Trump joined FIFA President Gianni Infantino on the podium to present the medals.
So we're very proud of our country. We're very proud of the job that was done by everybody. We congratulate Gianni Infantino and all of his staff and the incredible job they did.
As the celebrations continued, Spain left the stadium as world champions once again, while Argentina departed, knowing their reign had come to an end.
The future of a renowned Mexican art collection has placed the country's cultural authorities under growing scrutiny. Campaigners fear private agreements could keep important works outside Mexico for extended periods.
Works from one of Mexico's most important private art collections are heading to Europe, intensifying a dispute over ownership and national heritage. The Modern Stories exhibition closed on Sunday in Mexico City after attracting more than 310,000 visitors since February. It presented 68 works from the 160-piece Gelman Santander collection, including 10 by famous Mexican painter Frida Kahlo. Film producer Jacques Gelman and his wife, art collector Natasha Gelman, assembled the collection. Works from it had not been shown in Mexico for 2 decades. In January, Spanish bank Santander announced a multi-year exhibition agreement. The tour will begin at Foro Santander in Spain before some Kahlo pieces join retrospectives in Switzerland and Norway. Critics say private owners bought part of the collection in 2023 with a bank loan and later pledged it to Santander as collateral. Some of those works are designated as artistic monuments and protected under Mexican law. For campaigners, the dispute goes beyond legal ownership.
The direction the world is heading is that peace is considered valuable, and part of a society's heritage should remain in the place where they hold their greatest significance, where they were created, for the audience they were intended for, the country of those who created them. In that sense, the decisions of the Inbal and the Ministry of Culture go in the opposite direction. They go against the direction of the world.
Mexico's National Institute of Fine Arts and Literature, or Inbal, says courts confirmed the current owner's title. It says protected status does not affect ownership and permanent export is prohibited, making the tour temporary. Authorities say the collection will return in 2028 for an exhibition at Marco in Monterrey. Critics say that return does not settle its longer-term future. They cite a leaked agreement reportedly establishing an initial 5-year period abroad and allowing renewals without limit.
We'll take a short break now, and when we return, we'll have a look at key stories from the region. Stay with us.
Inside Politics delves deeply into the heart of global issues shaping our world today. Join me for your go-to source of political analysis from across the region and beyond.
More than 20,000 partisan fighters have been hidden. We found only 3,000.
My grandmother had 3 brothers. In the graveyard, the body of just one of them.
Their struggle was very unequal and against a state that had defeated such a force as Nazi Germany.
A lot of resistant fighters in the beginning of Soviet occupation actually would end up here, if not killed somewhere in the woods.
She was arrested at her home. Her 7-year-old daughter ran to her and screamed, "Mom, please take me with you." This report having the names of the individuals who were placed in the list of deportations.
I was born in Kengia, in a labor camp. My mother was a partisan liaison.
The first years were extremely difficult, of course. Poverty, hunger. The temperature sometimes dropped to -50 degrees.
The train stations like the one behind me once said goodbyes to thousands of people carried from across the Baltic states towards Siberia.
Welcome to A News, unfiltered news and analysis from the region and beyond. From Washington to Beijing, Tehran to Kabul, to Tbilisi to Tashkent. Hello, I'm Jeddah. Challenges.
Today is the third.
We're with you 24/7, taking you live to the front lines of the day's biggest stories. Welcome to Gabala. I'm here. Azerbaijan and Armenia.
Reporting from Paris,
Dar es Salaam, Tel Aviv,
Washington,
London,
Moscow,
Kyiv, Berlin,
Rio de Janeiro, Beijing, Bangkok, Tbilisi, Tashkent, Almaty, Kazakhstan, Port Sudan, Tehran, Islamabad, Istanbul,
Kabul, for A News.
Welcome back. You're watching Daybreak. Now we'll continue with the latest stories from the region. Following the latest Iranian missiles and drone attacks targeting American military assets and regional states, Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan's visit to Qatar has reinforced hopes that diplomacy may yet rescue the Memorandum of Understanding between the US and Iran, an agreement whose implementation has already proved deeply fragile. Now, Fidan called for a return to the agreement and said Turkey was coordinating closely with Qatar, which continues to employ its diplomatic channels in pursuit of de-escalation. His visit coincided with a working visit to Doha by Iraqi Prime Minister Ali Faleh al-Zaidi, underlining the intensity of regional diplomatic activity at this exceptionally sensitive moment. Joining us now to discuss further is Zuria Garayeva, PhD, Political Sciences. Zurieva, welcome to Daybreak.
Thank you for having me.
Not Zurieva, sorry, I pronounced your name incorrectly, Zuria. Welcome once again. Now, Hakan Fidan wasn't the only senior regional figure in Doha. Iraqi Prime Minister Ali Faleh al-Zaidi also held talks with the Qatari leadership. How sensitive is this moment in the Middle East? And what does this concentration of regional diplomacy in Qatar tell us about the urgency of efforts to prevent a wider conflict?
Thank you for your question. Actually, you have touched upon a very important aspect of the current regional development. If we speak specifically about this visit, this is important because it's taking place, as you said, at a very sensitive time for the Middle East. The region is facing growing tensions, military escalation, as you said, and serious security risks. In this situation, Turkey and Qatar are trying to coordinate their positions and support diplomatic efforts. We should remember that Turkey and Qatar have a close strategic partnership, and it can affect this situation, the realities in the region, I think. They cooperate in political, economic, security, and also defense issues, and they also share similar views on many regional developments. I think it's a very important factor. So this visit is not only about we can't assess just in bilateral relations, it's also about the wider regional situation. Another important point is that both countries have strong diplomatic channels with different regional and international actors. Qatar has played an active mediation role, we can remember, in several conflicts. And also Turkey has also maintained dialogue with many sides, and I think this gives both countries, Turkey and Qatar, an opportunity to contribute to de-escalation and also crisis management. And this visit may also focus on the situation not only in the context of war between Iran and USA, also in Gaza, tensions before, as I said, Iran and Israel, developments in Syria, and also the risk of a wider regional conflict. And Turkey and Qatar understand that further escalation would create serious political, humanitarian, also economic consequence for the whole region. And energy security, trade routes are also very important, and any conflict in the Gulf or the wider Middle East can affect global energy markets, transportation routes, and international trade. For this reason, regional stability is not only important for Turkey and Qatar, but also for many other countries. In my opinion, the main message of this visit is that diplomacy must remain active, and I think Turkey and Qatar, these countries, want to show that regional problems should be addressed through dialogue, through coordination, through peaceful political mechanisms.
Okay, Zuriya, now let's move on. Let's move on. In the interest of time, let's move on from the diplomatic efforts to another most important player here is Israel. Now, how concerned is Israel, or how concerned are they likely to be by Hakan Fidan's visit and by this wider coordination amongst Turkey, Qatar and Pakistan and Iraq? Could Israel view the emergence of a coordinated regional diplomatic initiative as constraining its freedom of action towards Iran?
Yeah, I think I would like to assess the visit in the broader context of the ongoing tensions between the United States and Iran. And if we ask this question, the risk of further escalation hasn't disappeared. And we can't remind this, and this remains one of the main security challenges for the region. And in context of Israel, in this region, the other countries of this region, Iraq, and also the main factor, Turkey. Turkey has once again demonstrated its growing diplomatic role. We know the situation, the landscape, diplomatic relations between Turkey and Israel, but it recently hosted the, we can remind, NATO summit, and Turkey continues to present itself as a country that is ready to facilitate dialogue whenever possible. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has repeatedly expressed Turkey's willingness to support diplomatic solutions instead of military escalation. Also, the Minister of Turkey repeatedly expressed this willingness of Turkey, and I think that Qatar also has a significant experience in mediation. It has maintained communication channels with different regional and international actors and has played an important role in previous negotiations. And I think it can affect these tensions between Israel and Iran.
Okay. Now, the bilateral agenda, Zuriya, also included preparations for the 12th meeting of the Turkey-Qatar Supreme Strategic Committee. That's expected to take place in Turkey later this year. What are the principal priorities within this strategic partnership, particularly in defence, energy, trade and regional security? And to what extent do you think could closer Turkey-Qatar coordination alter regional balance?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, these two countries have a close strategic partnership, as you said, in political side, in economic side, security. We know in economy is the base relationship between countries, and they also share, as I said, similar views, and that's why on many regional developments they share similar views. And so I think that this meeting, this also visit is not only about bilateral relations, diplomatic relations. It's also, we can assess this in context of economics, trade, energy, and regional development, because regional situation, because we know that the tense remains in this region, and for continuing the relations between other sides, they should affect this current situation in the region. And as I said, Qatar has played an active mediation role, we know, and Turkey also maintain a dialogue with many sides, and that's why I think this gives both countries an opportunity to contribute to all sides, to economic, to trade, to energy sides.
Okay. Zuriya, thank you so much for joining us on the program. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate your analysis.
Thank you too.
Now, Lebanon's president will visit the White House on Tuesday for talks with President Trump. It will be the first visit by a Lebanese head of state in nearly 20 years. Lebanon will present a written plan to disarm Hezbollah and seek US pressure for an Israeli withdrawal from southern Lebanon. The proposals are part of a US-brokered agreement aimed at restoring Lebanese state control and easing tensions with Israel. His visit follows Israeli drone strikes on Saturday, which killed at least 4 people. Iraq and Syria have agreed to restore an oil pipeline that has been out of use for decades, signing a memorandum of understanding to begin the project. Iraqi officials say the move is intended to widen the country's export options, strengthen energy links, and support regional energy security. The pipeline, which stretches from Kirkuk to Syria's Mediterranean coast, has been closed since being damaged during past conflicts. An international consortium, including Chevron, will now carry out technical studies before work begins. Now to Uzbekistan. Beyond its vast gold reserves, the Kızılkum Desert is home to one of Central Asia's most important wildlife sanctuaries. Our correspondent Sevil Rajapova visited the area as part of the Aral Sea Wetlands project led by Uzbekistan's National Committee on Ecology and Climate Change, the UNDP, and the Global Environment Facility.
Stretching across roughly 300,000 square kilometers between the Amu Darya and Sir Darya rivers, Kızılkum, which means red sands, is the largest desert in Central Asia and the 15th largest in the world. Beneath the sand lies one of the world's richest gold-bearing regions. The desert is home to the moving tower deposit in the Navai region, widely recognized as one of the largest open-pit gold mines on Earth. The giant quarry covers an area of nearly 9 square kilometers and it's around 600 meters deep. Kızılkum remains the backbone of Uzbekistan's gold industry. Mining operations produce more than 120 tons of gold annually, while new deposits continue to be discovered in places like Çukurkuduk field, where reserves have been estimated at more than 130 tons of gold. Yet beyond its mineral wealth, Kızılkum is also home to unique natural habitats that cannot be found anywhere else in the region. One of them is the Kızılkum State Reserve, located along the Amu Darya near Uzbekistan's border with Turkmenistan. It covers more than 10,000 hectares and was established to protect rare desert and floodplain ecosystems and preserve the region's unique biodiversity.
One of the greatest threats to these forests is fire. During dry periods, the risk of wildfires increases significantly. Another major challenge is the large number of mosquitoes and insects, which create difficulties both for wildlife and for the people working in these areas. Insects and pests can have a serious impact on animals. The forests themselves are extremely important because they provide habitat and shelter for wildlife. If the forests disappear, animals are forced to move into desert areas where conditions are much harsher and food resources are more limited. Another problem is seasonal flooding. Since these forests are located along riverbanks, they can be inundated when water levels rise. Flooding creates difficulties, particularly during the breeding season. The breeding period usually falls at the end of May and the beginning of June. At this time, animals need forest cover to protect and raise their young. When forests are flooded, many animals move into the desert to breed. There, however, they become more vulnerable to predators such as jackals and other carnivorous animals, which can attack their offspring. For this reason, forest rangers are constantly working to protect these areas. Various projects have been implemented to support their work. Through these projects, they have received assistance in the form of binoculars, cameras, sleeping equipment and tents, helping them carry out their conservation activities more effectively.
In a landscape where summer temperatures can exceed 50 degrees Celsius, the waters of the Amu Darya create a lifeline through the desert. The reserve combines Tugay forest, wetlands and desert habitats, and they provide shelter for hundreds of species of plants and animals. Among its most valuable habitats are the endangered Bukhara deer and goitre gazelle. Migratory birds, including pelicans, flamingos, and herons, use the area as a seasonal refugee. Scientists say ecosystems like this are becoming increasingly important as environmental pressures grow across the region. Protecting areas like Kizilkum has become a growing priority for Uzbekistan and its international partners. Across the desert, protected areas and nature reserves are safeguarding rare species, while reforestation programs are working to combat desertification through the planting of drought-resistant vegetation. Conservation efforts are also supported by modern monitoring systems, scientific research and anti-poaching measures, all aimed at preserving one of Central Asia's most fragile natural environments. It is Cyril Rajab reporting from Bukhara, Uzbekistan A News.
That's all from us on Daybreak this morning. Stay tuned to A News for all the latest updates.